Right, so I'm going to tell you the story of how I went from minimum wage to, matter of fact, it was probably below minimum wage, to about $100,000 per year. It's a story of highs, lows. It was definitely a non linear journey, but it was a journey to success. So, before high school, I wasn't working much. I mean, I was one of those tech savvy kids in the family, fixing printers, helping with laptops, doing small repairs. I once bought a broken iPhone 7 from eBay and replaced the screen, and I flipped it for a profit. Also, I loved making video games, or at least the idea of making my own video games. So I spent hours watching Tornado Twins Unity tutorials on YouTube. Shout out to them. I learned Photoshop, Blender, game development, all things that you need to build a video game. And this was all in hopes to build the next Flappy Bird. I even released a couple of arcade games on the App Store. Not many downloads, but the process taught me skills that will become invaluable years later. So fast forward to high school. I'm in my final year of high school. I applied to 5 UK university for software engineering through UCAS, which is a website through which you can apply to universities in the United Kingdom. So I applied to some of them, including Oxford and Cambridge. Spoiler, I did not get into any of them, or at least into those two. And I was also part of a robotics club at my high school. And we actually, with the robotics team, we won national and international competitions, which actually helped my application stand out. We did win the Robo Cup, I think isn't like 2016 or something like that. So at the end of the exams, the end of the year, I scored 95% on my exams, and obviously that wasn't enough to get into Oxford and Cambridge, as I said, but it was enough to get into Southampton, the University of Southampton. But I had another dream too, and that was becoming a pilot. So I had been obsessed with planes since I was a kid as well. And at 16, I started studying for my private pilot license, which is basically the license with which you can fly small little single-engine airplanes, and not only those actually. And at 17, I took my first flight, which is actually the minimum age required to fly those planes, at least where I live here in Europe. I was lucky though that my parents supported that dream financially, because it is quite expensive, and I'm not gonna stay here and pretend like it's luck is not part of the equation. It definitely is, but you need to use that luck and be ready at the right moment. So my plan was the following: I wanted to study software engineering, and while I was studying, I would have built my side projects, my apps and softwares, and obviously try to launch a startup. And if that startup became successful, well, then I would just, leave university and go do that, maybe become the next Mark Zuckerberg or something. But if that failed, I had a plan B. I would finish my degree, and then I would try to become a commercial pilot. But knowing how difficult and how cyclical the industry is, I would actually at the same time try to find a job as a software developer, which is probably easier than becoming a pilot if you're not too picky, or at least it was at the time. So that summer, after the exams, I came across a rare cadet pilot program, which, instead of paying upfront for training and hoping to get hired later, which is what you typically do to become a pilot, this cadet pilot scheme actually offered conditional employment if you passed all the training. So I applied, and the selection process began. In October, I started university while the selection process for this cadet pilot thing was going on, and but I skipped the first week of university because I figured, it's Freshers Week. It just helps people get oriented with the university and figure out how everything works. It's not any real work gets done in that week, so I figured, I could just skip it, and that the reason was I had to finish my private pilot's license. But as soon as I got there to university, that week later, I actually felt lost because I did not know where the classes were, what assignments I had to submit, or even that I had a tutor. I had no idea. So I just figured, I'm the cadet pilot program selection is going really well. I can make a bold choice here. I can drop out of university and just go and become a pilot and enter into this cadet pilot scheme. But so I left university. I went back to my own country. I left the UK. But then immediately came a heartbreak because I got an email. I was number 62 on the list, and they were only accepting 60 candidates. So I had left university for nothing. No uni, no pilot program. I was crushed, literally crushed. I had nothing else to do other than, I could only enroll myself into a local university because I had left the UK at that point. I couldn't go back. I was not into the pilot thing. So I just enrolled in a local university. It was online, by the way, because it was the only option left. And so I just started doing that. But the experience was uninspiring and demotivating. It's just like not what I had in plan at all. So absolute failure there. I thought I was a failure. But one day, I remember when I was half listening to a math lecture on my sofa, my phone rang. It was the airline. It was the airline that was offering the cadet pilot program. Two candidates had just dropped out. They refused their spot, and they just asked me, do you still want the spot? And obviously, I said yes. I signed the paperwork that same day. I went to the airport and I signed the paperwork that same day. So I began the cadet program. I completed my theoretical exams and started flight training. I mean, life felt back on track. So it was all good. But then COVID-19 shut down the whole world. I mean, we were grounded for months. During lockdown, we were just in our houses. We obviously could not go on with the training because we had to fly those little planes. So what I did is I used that as an opportunity to build new software, aviation tools, and apps. And one of the apps I made, I remember, was an app to calculate the maximum sun exposure time before you get burned. And the other app, which was probably more relevant, was apps to help pilots with aircraft weight and balance, which you'd actually have to do those calculations every time before the flight. So I figured, why not just build an app for that? So when flying resumed, I used that app. But the airline that was sponsoring this cadet pilot scheme was actually struggling. Surprise, surprise. Nobody was flying. So eventually they went bankrupt. So our licenses, which we didn't actually have, they were airline specific, and we only completed half of them. So we couldn't transfer anywhere else because we were studying for an MPL, not an ATPL or CPL. So I was stuck once again. My course was completely useless. I couldn't go anywhere else, and I was again stuck. So I spent months and months, just not knowing what I was going to do with my life, because I again, things were not going as planned, and I'm sure many people during COVID were in the same situation. But thankfully, through a family friend, I actually landed my first paid job. I was the beauty of $5 an hour, probably even less, and I think that was gross money, not even net. So, and it was at a small software company. I did front end and UI design, and finally, those old skills from my App Store games came in handy. So I absolutely hated the 9 to 5 life. I figured it was not for me. There was endless Zoom meetings, building software that I didn't care about. It was for clients I didn't care about, making bad design decisions because the client and someone in a suit in the company just said to change the things that were made the way I made them. So I realized the product was getting worse every time they asked me to change things. So I knew just this wasn't for me. 9 to 5 every day. I was miserable, and also I was not getting paid much as well. Surprisingly, for a software, I wasn't an engineer. I didn't have a degree, but it was very low pay. So it was I knew it wasn't for me. But thankfully, there was another miracle. uh, Another airline contacted me and the rest of the cadets. They were offering us they were offering to let us complete our pilot training with them. So I did not think twice about that. So I quit my software job and I went all in on that. Now I'm finally a commercial pilot. From I've been doing this job for about a couple of years, probably three, and the job is dynamic, it's challenging, and it's exactly what I envisioned. Different routes, changing crews. No 2 days are the same. I mean, after the initial post-COVID pay cut, our pay was initially very low because the company was just starting out. It was difficult times for everyone, but now I'm making round about $100,000 dollars per year. So I enjoy the perks like discounted flights and flexible scheduling. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. I mean, occasionally, especially in high season, the rosters are pretty bad. But compared to sitting into a cubicle, building someone else's dream and being paid ridiculously low amounts of money, this is exactly where I want to be. So what am I doing right now for my future? I'm currently investing in stocks and ETFs because, I just don't want to be flying until 67, until retirement. Or at least I don't want to have to do that until I'm old. I want to have the option to just leave again whenever I want. So investing, and also I'm working on aviation related tools. I mean, and this time they will be my own projects. So what are the key takeaways from this? Your path doesn't have to be linear. I mean, mine was full of highs and lows, and you'll figure, it won't be linear. You'll have moments where things will go just to shit, but then you'll figure out there's always a way out. And also another key point is rejection is not a failure. I missed the cut for the cadet pilot program initially by 2 people, and then 2 spots open up. Exactly 2 spots. And you always gotta stay ready. And a third point, you gotta learn skills, even if they don't pay off immediately. I mean, my early interest in game development helped me land my first job. If I didn't have these skills, I wouldn't have landed my first job. I mean, albeit I hated it, but right now I'm working on these new aviation tools and softwares and projects. It's always good to learn new skills. Also, they did simplify my life during my aviation studying because of those software calculators for mass and balance. So another point is don't be afraid to pivot. I mean, I left university, I left software, and now I'm glad I did. So you don't have to be afraid to change. Obviously, don't take a ridiculous, silly risk, but you have to take calculated risks, I think. And number 4, a safe job, your 9 to 5 isn't always the right job. You gotta find what excites you and what you want to build, because you'll be doing that for the rest of your life, for like 40 years of working. So you gotta find something that stimulates you to get out of bed every day. And nothing will be perfect, but you have to find something that will actually motivate you and interest you. So again, remember, if you're feeling stuck, remember all it takes is one opportunity and the courage to chase it, and keep learning new high value skills. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, write those down in the comments. I'll try to answer it, everyone. Thank you very much.